Welcome back. Here's where you left off. Spoilers ahead for chapters 1 through 11 of The Shackleton Signal by Joshua Calvert. So The Shackleton Signal, a book that you had recommended, Leonard, and I started it off, and the first impression I had, which was really funny, was that I thought of Chris Hadfield's writings when I first started to read it because of the tone of the book. Not so much the writing style, but just the tone of the book and sort of the space sort of genre in there in more modern times. Did you have that sort of experience with yourself?
Yes, it's very familiar writing. I think that's the best way to describe it. The tone itself, the feel of it is very familiar. You're right. It is. I never linked it with Chris Hadfield's style of writing. I'm more sort of like the when I was reading it, the tone of it is very. It has a potential can be a very dark book. You know what I mean? Even the mission itself, because as you know, in real life, in IRL, we are planning to go back to the moon, and the biggest twist is finding something at the Shackleton crater at the South Pole. So that's kind of interesting because during this last year, I was reading the Artemis missions going to the moon, and this reminds me of like, if our moon mission would have and has becomes a movie or a book or a fictional book, this could be it. You know what I mean? So it was a very interesting start of the book. So tell me what you think of the first 11 chapters.
Well, the story plot line is interesting. First off, I feel bad for the primary crew because they're going to die somehow. I don't know how that's going to happen.
It's the red shirt guys. Those are the red shirt guys.
They are. Yeah, no, it's good. No, it's a good point. They are the red shirt guys because they barely talked about. We have Harry, we have Charlie, we have Miller, who's the head of NASA or whatever, doing her thing, and then we have the Colonel woman who, her name's. I'm losing it right now. Anyway, from the military side of things. But what I really found in the first 11 chapters was, I sort of think as you had described the discussion about real life and how it's mirroring it. And there's a lot we can say about it. This is something I'm personally interested in, but things like the SLS they talk about SpaceX, like the author really stays extremely close to real life here in the planning and in the theory of what's happening. It's sort of the wrench he throws in there is the Shackleton crater, not so much the mission or even the rivalry. I mean, if you look in real life, the Chinese are getting there, and to underestimate them would be foolish at this point. And as I was reading, I kept on thinking of real life. Did you find yourself doing that?
Yes. It's kind of funny. I'm glad that you mentioned SpaceX, and SpaceX already having issues launching their rocket to the Mars for testing, and in the book itself, they actually failed, I believe twice as well. So it does mirror itself, and at the last part of the when they start talking about the Chinese heading to space as well too, that it is a modern day interpretation of a space race, right? And it's kind of funny, though, because when we get introduced to all the characters, there's a lot of characters that got introduced in the first 3 chapters in this, right? There's a lot of names floating around, and for this points I got confused who's who, right? And
I think it becomes between like the primary crew and the backup crew. So Charlie's with the backup crew, and sort of they give you the primary crew's names, but then you forget about them because they're only ever mentioned in a meeting that Charlie walks into, and he just refers to them as the primary crew now. So you don't even remember their names.
No, exactly. It's one of those things that they're the primary crew, and the backup crew has to do all their bidding. So it's a very typical high school mentality going into this. So it's kind of interesting. At the same time too, because when we're at the first 11 chapters, like I mentioned before, it was just a big intro to everything, including the characters itself, including the mission, right? And they did hint several times as well too that they found something on Shackleton crater. It's something metallic. It's something they're receiving something. They're seeing or hearing codes or some type of communication that indicates hydrogen, right? And that tells you a lot of things. If humans actually receive that kind of information. And I can tell you right now, it's going to be a lot of like, oh my gosh, I think we found something out there, right? So the first thing they're going to do is going to start launching stuff and try to figure it out, right? And if this, I want to say, if this sort of mirrors real life, the question actually in my mind automatically, would people on Earth will work together to sort this out, or is each country will be a jerk about it? That's the first thing out of my mind. And this,
I mean, I mean, if you really think about it, the way the world is going for this, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, and I'm going to speak strictly from a historic perspective here. If you look at the space race from a historic perspective, the Russians kicked the U.S. butt the entire way up until they landed on the moon. Russians did first for everything in space, right? Right up to the point where they landed on the moon. And then they claimed victory, right? And the interesting thing about that is that in today's day and age, the Chinese are catching up so quickly to the U.S., they're almost ready to pole vault over the U.S. And if you look like in where the world is going towards, where like the main resource on the moon would be like helium-3 as the next major resource with fusion reactors and so forth, if we ever figure that out in 30 years' time, as the joke goes. But if they jump ahead of us in regards to North America, I suppose, not necessarily the U.S., but if they jump ahead, then that prestige is gone. And I think that prestige is always what motivates the states and them to do that. Elon Musk doesn't care about the moon.
No, he doesn't.
He cares about Mars.
Exactly.
And so to go to Mars, go to the moon is just a paycheck for him. To do the lander, because he's a lander, they got the contract for the lander on the moon and so forth in real life. And we're making the distinction here so people don't get confused if they're reading the book. That's in real life. They got this thing. But this is mirroring the book a great deal. And it's part of the thing I'm enjoying about the book so far is that, yeah, I get that. I don't think the author is going to go deep into the SLS is a complete crapshoot and all that. But I mean, in real life, we know this, but it's interesting that, he takes these huge liberties with it. And I actually got to give him credit for it. I like it.
I think we had this several conversation about historical books or books that mirrors real life or even in history itself. And authors do give out, as much if an author is trying to mimic real life, of course you're going to take some creative liberties to mold the story itself. And I never had that issue. I really never had that issue. And in this case itself, there's a potential. If we stay in the context of the book itself, they found a signal. They want to know who it is, but they're in the middle of a space race right now against the U.S. versus China. And it's a very typical storyline that's out there, right? And based on the book itself, not in real life here in the book itself, China is moving faster than the Americans, right? Just look at that context itself. Right, and it's kind of funny though too. When I was reading this book, I actually ended up watching several amateur radio astronomers out there, right? That does a lot of zombie satellite hacking, right? And they already said several times too, if the government doesn't want you to listen to their satellites, they can just encrypt it and have to open the signal when it goes to a certain area, right? In military side, it's always encrypted. And right now, some of the zombies satellites out there are open to everyone to use, right? And if a signal comes out from, in this case, Shackleton's crater, everyone can hear it. So secretively, if you try to make this a secret, it's not going to happen. So I have a feeling, Derek, that that signal that they heard is not mainly just for NASA or the military. There's going to be a lot of amateur radio astronomers out there will start listening. If they hear something, it's going to be open source.
So,
Right.
so let's be clear. Are we talking like in real life or are we talking book wise?
In book-
Because we
sorry,
really
in
kind of
books-
muddied
yeah,
the water here.
Yeah, in real life, there's tons of amateur astronomers out there that whatever they collect becomes open source. If the book itself follows that real life, quote unquote real life filter, like what we're seeing now, because the first 11 chapter, it felt like it's actually happening because it uses information that you know what I mean. So if the author does follow the same mentality, I have a feeling that this storyline itself is gonna go off the rails. It's gonna be exciting to read because there's gonna be a lot of like moving parts. Right, I'm not sure if you feel the same way because I'm very optimistic about this because based on what I'm
I have
so
a lot
far.
of optimism about it, but I'm gonna make a statement I think might surprise you here, and that is, I don't want it to be aliens. Does that surprise you?
I'm very surprised you actually said that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm very surprised
reason.
about it.
I'll give you my reason. Okay. As I was reading through it, they talk about finding in the Shackleton crater and they talk about their logic behind like aliens and doing this. And there's something there for aliens. And my thought process is, we've been crumping around the moon for a long time. So I have many questions about it. But my first question is, why now? Why is the signal showing up now? What instigated the signal? What process started it, right? And I mean, I want to be really fair here. We just started the book, so we always have these, theory sessions when we first start a new book about what's going to happen. But kind of what I want to happen in the book, which I don't know if it will, of course, is that it's not aliens, but it's some sort of tool to get, NASA or somebody moving or some other organization to get the world's governments moving to do more space travel. And the funniest thing, when I read it, I thought maybe that's an Elon Musk thing. He has enough money. He could pull something like that off.
Oh,
just to
not
get everybody
anymore.
moving
Not
and all
anymore.
that kind
He's
of
actually
stuff.
losing a lot of money, so he doesn't have that money.
So let's just stay on the
That's
book
real
for the
life
moment.
and in fiction and in nonfiction. But
let's just stay in the book. But
Well,
what I mean is that the plot line, we always assume it's aliens, assume it's this, assume it's that. But when I'm reading it, I really enjoyed Chris Hadfield's books, where it wasn't about aliens; it was about the interpersonal drama that was happening.
It's the race. It's the race.
It's a race, and I'm hoping that that's sort of what it's going to be, because we get there, get to the crater, whatever it is, if it's like an 80-year-old, whatever, because when they talked about the physics and everything that they found out, like it's physics that, humans know, so we can decrypt. So it wouldn't be anything out of the realm of possibility that we could program into this thing to send or whatever. It's not like it's advanced beyond human knowledge, right? It's not like they said, hey, here's, warp drive or something, So I guess that was where my head was at when I was reading it, going, I don't really want it. I just want it to be like a human-centric storyline. I felt that way when I got to the end of the last chapter there, when they're heading off to the Cape and Charlie's like there, and I don't know what's going to happen to the red shirts, but I'm kind of hoping for that. How do you feel about my theory there?
I call BS in that one. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. No,
So you really think the aliens thing is the plot line? Yeah.
Okay, there is flaws in your logic there, though. There is flaws in your logic. They found something in the moon, in a crater, right? And the only thing that they find out so far is sending a satellite trying to figure out what's out there, right? Let's just use this as if that thing was not launched by anybody from Earth, the only thing left to speculate it came from somewhere else, right? If a satellite falls from left orbit and accidentally landed in the moon, right? There is and there is a list of satellites out there right now that's considered commissioned or non, that's still working or has been decommissioned, still floating out there, and people are tracking it, right? So if you use that logic, use that real world logic, if they do their jobs right, they check the list and nothing's been missing, for example, that thing is not man-made. It has to be a species from outside our planet to put that in there. Right.
I get you. It's funny because I keep on thinking, because the argument sort of in the book so far is that we don't know how long it's been there and so forth. And I'm thinking, so aliens came all the way across the universe to drop something on our moon for us to find in God knows how many years instead of putting it on the planet.
You never know.
No. I don't know. Look. I'm all about the sci-fi. You know this. This isn't a problem for me. But the interesting thing is that my real biggest question is, why now? That was my biggest question for reading the chapters.
Well,
and again, I'm not faulting the writer. We'll probably get the answer later on. We only read 11 chapters, and it's just the setup to the book. I have these huge questions rolling around in my head as I'm reading. Right?
Put it this way, though. You said why now. My answer, my next thing I'm gonna ask you is like, why not?
Okay,
right?
Are we really gonna do the reverse logical
hell
question?
Yeah.
Like, is that
you opened the can of worms? Let's talk about this here. Remember, we are waiting. We haven't started chapter 12 yet, so
I know.
This is gonna be one of those things that we're speculating so much in the first based on 11
we're
chapters.
Way off the rails here. I know.
I can't wait to continue reading it, but I want to know exactly, because you said why now, and my reply back is why not. Right.
It's so reverse logic, Leonard. It's like we don't really need to go there. It's like one way or the other.
You opened it, so I'm walking in it to ask you that question.
Okay. All right. So then why not is random chance that in a moment of the ability for multiple nations to go to the moon, this is what. So I think the answer to your why not, I think the logical answer would be that there's something there monitoring Earth that knows that we can get there now. That's the logical response to my point.
So it's aliens.
Oh God. Well, yeah. I said my comments earlier because that's what I would like it to be. Do I think it's going to be aliens? Probably. Because that's like more entertaining, right? Rather than being some like secret NSA program that went up there 30 years ago and it's been sitting there and they're waiting to set it off or something like that or whatever. That kind of intrigue kind of stuff, which it could be, because the tone of the book is sort of along that line too. It could be. It's not impossible.
I'm just hoping this is not one of those plot lines that becomes a, hey, you've learned something today. If we just all work together, we can make this happen. If that's the end of the book, and that's the thing I learned,
it won't
I swear
be that.
to God, this book is going to be marked to 1 out of 5. So if that happens, Derek, I'm letting you right now. If that happens, this book will be going to be the worst.
For the rant.
This is going to be the worst scoring you're ever going to hear. And the whole review will be my rant.
It's going to be like one of them goes to the moon. It's like, oh, you press the button. Now you have 5 days until the Earth blows up or something. And we all have to work together, like that kind of stuff.
No. I mean, like welcome. This is a test to make sure that humans are ready to open their minds to the rest of the universe. If that is the lessons learned in this book, it's going to be so disappointed. And this is going to be not even a 1 out of 5. It's literally going to be a 0 out of 5. And my rant will be half an hour long, and you will not say a single word except welcome. So I'm hoping that is not going to be the case based on our prediction.
So let's just talk about the next few chapters just specifically. I assume that the red shirts are going to die and Charlie's going to be up. And probably because he has his military background, they're going to give him secret orders to go up and grab it or whatever. And then there'll probably be some Chinese spacecraft up there that's fighting to get there quicker, something like that, I assume. But that's my logical
Okay.
thought about how the plot line will go. What do you think?
It's kind of funny though, because throughout the whole book, Charlie was he was part of the primary team, but he was bumped down, right, as a backup, and he hasn't really said anything why that happened, right? So him being part of all the meetings, right? And as you said, he does have a military background, so he does have the clearance compared to the rest and experience to follow orders, right? Here's the thing, though. Based on the first 11 chapters, I have a feeling that you're right, something's going to happen to primary crew. They're the red shirt guys. They're going to die going there, or something happens to it, right? And the gold shirts, where Charlie is, will fly out there and solve the issue, right? But what I can see right now is it's not about the destination, it's about the journey type feel to it. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of interaction between NASA, the military, and him if he does go up there and try to do the right thing. And I have a feeling that that's what's going to happen. I have a feeling that the next few chapters is going to be a lot of trying to figure out what to do next. There's going to be a lot of questioning themselves. There's going to be a lot of questioning the mission. There's going to be a lot of why are we doing this?
Join us next time as we review chapters 12 through 27 of The Shackleton Signal by Joshua Calvert. Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share a review. We love to hear from you. Send us an email at yourbookmarksinfo@gmail.com. Join us again right here where you left off.